radio section.
Okay, today I want to show you how to make a bass drop in both Ableton and Fruity Loops. I'm going to show you mixing, mastering, and how to actually lay out your drop, song arrangement, sound design, and different tips and tricks. My name's Dripment. If you like bass music tutorials, you can subscribe to my channel, hit like, and leave a comment on any other videos you would like to see in the future. Otherwise, let's get into it. I want you to hear Dark Side.
Embrace the dark side.
Awesome. So I'm going to show you guys how to basically arrange this drop, how to do the build up, timing, and just the different tips and tricks I use to make this song. If you guys want to download it or stream it, the link is in the description. Otherwise, let's get into the drop here. 32 bars is the full drop. You can chop it in half to 16. And then we'll look at our 8 bars. Okay, and then this is where we're going to start at our 8 bar section. Usually when I start a drop, start a song, I start with the drop. The reason is because it's a lot easier to flow from the intro to the drop rather than start an intro and make a drop. But anyway is okay. Now I'm going to show you exactly what I did first. I started with a call and response. So you're going to have your build up.
Embrace the dark side.
So we have our build up. We have our pre-drop section. There's a vocal in here as well, right here.
Embrace the dark side.
And then as soon as the drop starts, we have the call, which is the beginning section. Now, it's a lot better to have a call and response so that you have your basses talking to each other and flowing properly rather than just throwing basses at the listener. So with this call, it goes like bass, and then I resampled it and made little glitches. Listen here. While those are playing, we have a kick and clap. And some rides. Also, we have some sub going on. So we're like bursting out some sub as soon as the drop hits. And then remove it when the clap happens. In this song, I used a filter, a phone filter. Without the phone filter, it sounds like this.
Embrace the dark side.
Listen again. I added a phone filter and a multi-band dynamics to actually go on only in this section. So when this filter goes off, we're losing most of the frequencies, and then we throw them back right here at bar 35 to make the drop even heavier than it was initially. So with the filter, you can't hear any sub, and then as soon as this happens, the sub is pumping, the bass is pumping, and it goes full energy. This is really helpful. Phone filter techniques are amazing with this auto filter. I use this multi-band dynamics to make it louder while the filter is active as well. Automation proclamation, the automation declaration. This is a very simple song. There's not a lot of basses going on. We have our sub. First off, I want to show you just a very clean operator sub. Basic sine wave. Operator sub, super clean. It's just a little bit of EQ. So we have this sub, main sub. Then we have this sub with a white noise. So at the beginning, during the hits, like at the beginning of the drop, I have a sub with a white noise playing with this erosion, giving some white noise. This is just boosting up the sub, Not really needed, but it is needed for the the serum sub. But operator, you don't really need to do that. Distortion with some overdrive, very minimal. Easy sub. Cool. Now the main lead is this like machine gun bass. So while that's playing, I have a sustain playing at the same time. Now, the sustain is in the background, just driving the sound, while the machine gun lead is just chopping down at your soul and making you realize you're lost in sound. Let's listen to the mix. So when I layered out this lead, I'm just simply going one at a time, using the triplet grid, and then moving left to right, adding different delays to add rhythm and bounce to the lead. It doesn't have to be perfect in time. Use the grid most of the time, but then you can offset your notes to add that stanky groove. Stank groove. You have your main lead, you have your sustain, and then what I add is a wide bass. And you hear the wide bass over here even more. So I start adding the wide bass to start really filling out the frequency range and the stereo field. Our frequency range is filled out with our sub all the way on the left side, perfectly clean, loud, and then everything else on the right side is being cut right here with the mid bass group. And then we have each sound living within the 100 to 10,000 hertz frequency range. Now the mid bass is mono, so it's in the middle, and that's chopping down at you in the middle while we're filling out the rest of the frequency range with a super wide sustain. Left and right ears. And then we start bringing in wide basses. So a wide bass with the middle lead sounds amazing. And then we bring in other middle basses like this sustain flutter. Keep in mind, we're all in D. This is D minor, so everything in my drop, I'm using the root note. I'm using D. And then also in my intro, I have everything in D minor. But the drop is usually just using the root note. When I resample, I'll just go crazy with the clips, with the pitches. See, this is -37. I use tones, texture, complex pro, and complex, and use pitch to then make weird, glitchy sounds. After I resample this, for example, resample the main bass, make little glitches. That's how I start my call. Then you move on to the response, which is the sustain and the bass lead. This is your meat and potatoes. This is just your appetizer, your little biscuits. So that's the first 8 bars. Now, after you have your first 8 bars, it's a lot easier to start laying out the song. When you get your first 8 bars, you're basically doing the same technique, your call and response. So after your 8 bars is done, you're doing another call and response. So right here, we just got a... So I just used the wide bass, and this is the fun part. You're basically making fills with your basses, and you can mix and match and, you know, just try whatever you want to try. So what I did here was I used a wide bass for the one, resampled this to complete craziness. It made it sound like this. The clap is on the 3. And then we have a machine gun bass on the 4. This machine gun bass is kind of bringing you in to the response, and then it just starts responding with the teardown. And if you can tell, you don't want to get bored, so we're not adding the same sustain from the first 8 bars. No, we're adding a new sustain, which is the sustain flutter. And that is going to be a nice. So then what do you know? You got chance to also drive the drop. After the 16 bars ends, then we're entering a new section. Now, after the sustain flutter, we make a new fill, which is this, with the clap, and then we start bringing in this machine gun bass, but then we just go hard with the wide bass. Now, when I'm writing this, I'm usually going by the rhythm, going by what I can actually imagine, what I hear, and what I can feel. You don't have to be perfect. The main rule is just to stay within the 32 bar drop. You go by the rhythm, you go by the timing of your soul. And honestly, to know the correct time, you want to listen to a lot of music so that you know exactly when things are supposed to hit and the correct timing, just to keep people dancing. That's really the main goal. You don't want to have people stop dancing. You don't want to lose energy. As long as you can keep the energy pumping, that's the main goal. After the wide bass goes hard in this section, I add another fill. And in this fill, I add a new bass. So each fill, I'll be adding different sounds just to make every section different. With the machine gun bass here, I start changing up the rhythm to make it faster, and then I just start spreading out that wide bass and adding a new bass in the middle. And this is all just to add rhythm and bounce. So now let's move to the beginning and let's check out the intro and the build up and how to actually build the tension for the drop, because that's the most important part. You want that intro and build up to flow into the drop. You don't want them to sound like two different songs. So we're going to figure out how to do that. The way to do that is to write in one key, right? Pick a scale. I pick D minor. When you pick a scale, that means you're using 7 notes in that scale. These 7 notes you can use. Don't use the other ones. As long as you use these notes in any octave, you will stay in key and everything will sound harmonically correct and beautiful, and it'll make everything a lot easier. In my drop, I stick to the D note. So I'm basically just using the D note and then changing the tones with frequency shifters and the serum filters and other effects to make the sound different. Now we're going to go to this. So basically, I started with, some strings. I have this effect rack that lets you make chords. So I just added that here and I wrote some easy D minor notes. This is D. This is also D. So it's just 2 octaves. And then it's moving up to F. It's going up to the 3rd. And look, this is an F2. So look, this is just the same exact thing as this, just another octave higher. And we're just moving up. And look, we're moving down right here, moving down the scale, just like I showed you in those notes. From the root note to the 3rd to the 2nd, back to the root note. And that's looping back and forth for these strings. Before it was a chord, it sounded like just this. That's just this single hit. But then when you make them chords with this effect rack, or if you add more notes and make them chords, if you're good with your theory, then you got some chords. Now, when you get your chords in D minor, you can find other loops that are in D minor and start mixing them together. So what I did was I got this loop. Sounded like this. And I put it in halftime and made it sound like this. After these strings come in, then I add some simple brass in D minor, add an amp to make it thick, add some EQ to clean it up, glue compressor to make it loud. I got just a section of the brass. I use the loop and the crossfade features to loop the brass. And then I start writing in D. So start with the root note, move up to the third, second, then you just start writing your song. So 33 is usually where the drops are in a lot of songs. That's a good, at the 33rd bar, it's a good place to locate. But basically your first 8 bars, you have a little intro. Your next 16 bars, you can have a nice melodic section. You'll split the section. So in the next section, I have it faster with the brass. My hats start to speed up. Drums get a little different. Cool. And then now we're transitioning to the breakdown and build up. So after this goes, you see so look, in this last fill section, it's going from C, D, C, D, and going straight back to the root note. As soon as our breakdown starts, we're going back home to our root. And then now in the breakdown, we don't want to progress the chords. We just want to keep them constant and loop them so we can start building it and add tension. So I stop adding melodic sections and then I start just looping. So the brass goes constant. And then I add I think this is a choir loop. And now we're just looping. And then while we're looping the melodic sections in D, we have a snare starting to build.
Embrace the dark side.
Nice. And then you see these chords are still playing. So we have a whole melodic symphony going up, up, up in the build. And since it's in D minor, we hit you with the pre-drop.
Embrace the dark side.
Which is no key, just pre-drop. So the tensions build. You hit them with the pre-drop, and then you release the tension in the same key, which is D. And it'll flow correctly. And you got to make sure your timing is right. So stick to 8 and 16 bar timings during your intro, your melodic. Stick to that. Once you learn your timing, then you can start breaking away, start offsetting timing, and start adding your own rhythm and flow. It's really important to learn timing first. Listen to a lot of songs, keep DJing, keep bumping music, make sure you know your timing and how to arrange these songs, because it's really coming from my heart and my soul whenever I want to start going hard. We're going in. If you want to get this song, it is streaming now on Spotify, on Apple Music. You can download it. You can have fun, bust it, break down, throw some tear out. If you like this, like, subscribe. Once again, I'm Dripment. You guys have a good day. Peace out.
Real glam Dripment.
Still can't believe it's not booger.